Hi everyone, my name is Sucharita. Today we are going to speak to a very special guest who has been a student of TOPMYTEST for that 2018, and he has converted IIM Shillong to code MDI and IIFT Delhi. So we will be speaking to him about CAT mainly, but since he also converted IIFT Delhi, we will also speaking for IIFT. He is none other than Rishabh. Rishabh, thank you so much for speaking to us. I hope the upcoming students can learn a lot from the insights we give them. So, not wasting any more further time, I will just jump straight forward to the question. CAT MBA, when you actually started preparing for the MBA entrance examinations, tell us a little bit about yourself. Were you working? Were you a student? What was your scenario at that point of time when you started preparing?
So the first time I prepared for CAT, it was in 2017, and at that time I was working with KPMG in risk consulting, and my first attempt was with the job. With After my job till June, I decided that I wasn't getting any time whatsoever, so I decided to quit my job, and then I continued preparing, and I ended up with a good percentile this time and converted. Okay.
Okay. So few days back, I had also interviewed some other students, and they were working professionals. They worked and at the same time they prepared for the exams. In your case, you thought that it was just getting too much. So when did you realize that okay, this was the breaking point? I should quit my job. Why did you do that? And what was that breaking point?
So honestly speaking, I was barely getting half an hour to study because I was plotted on a client that made me travel 5 hours a day, and I had to then also work 9. So by the time I got back, I just prepared for the next day and I went to sleep. And after a few discussions, I thought I was told that this project might go on for a very long time, and I knew that this isn't helping me in any way. And I was a bit impatient at that time, that I was getting a bit emotional. I'm not able to prepare. I'm not able to prepare. So I was confident that I could do it, and that's why I quit my job. Not that I recommend it to anyone, because it's a very risky thing to do. One question off, and I would have very well been at 99 without any old iron call. So I wouldn't recommend it, because unless you're gonna get a 99.9 and every mock already says that you're gonna get a 99.9, till then I would not recommend quitting it. It's too
So,
risky.
if I had to put it in a simple way, if in case you find a very hectic working hours where you're just not able to give any more time, like your case, Rishabh, you were just not, you were barely getting half an hour of time to study. That time, maybe you can take that risk, but you need to ensure that when you take that risk, you have a very strong preparation in order to get that percentile which you got. And that's why you said I won't recommend to anyone. But if somebody has to do it, it has means that person has to do it, right? So let's talk a little bit about your CAT examination, the CAT preparation. So ideally, let's start with the area-wise preparation with respect to CAT, starting from quantitative aptitude. Now, usually people say that it's much easier for engineers to grasp the concepts of quant and CAT rather than non-engineers. What is your viewpoint on it, and what was your position when you were preparing for quantitative aptitude section?
So I personally feel that engineering itself doesn't give us such a strong base as the preparation that came for getting into an engineering college. So a lot of aspirants who are from maybe a top engineering college, they have prepared to an extent during the JE days that allows them to capitalize on that knowledge very thoroughly. But that can't be said for every engineer. So there is a select group which will obviously do really well owing to their JE preparation, but there are also others who are not as well versed with it. But yes, as compared to other streams, we are well versed with maths. It's not something that is going to be alien to us. It will be familiar to us most of the time.
Okay. And how about the areas, different kinds of areas that we have? So we have arithmetic, algebra, geometry. Usually people have a myth that we should do a lot of number system because a lot of questions come from number system. However, we have seen in the past few years that it's only been arithmetic which has been really coming in a lot more extent than what number system is. And at the same time, we also have geometry. So if you have to talk about the overhyped areas or the underhyped areas, what would you say about them? Which are the most critical sections which a person should prepare for and what?
In quant, as you said, the most overhyped area is obviously numbers and remainders, which I don't know why everyone has been doing remainders with such ferocity, but that's how it is, and people have been doing it. But it's not required. Remainders don't come so much. Then there is this last two digits, which sometimes might come in your mocks, but it ideally won't come for the CAT. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do numbers. Obviously, doing factors and factorials, HCF, LCM in their entirety helps. But doing stuff which are not going to come is not really required. Now, in last two digits, you can do it in a lot of ways, but it's not going to come. So why would you want to do it?
And how about arithmetic? What do you suggest? How many? What are the most important chapters in the arithmetic section?
I think arithmetic in its entirety has to be done very thoroughly
Okay.
because everything is interlinked. Somewhere it's going to pop up, and you need to be very well versed with arithmetic. There's no out way for arithmetic. I wouldn't suggest you pick and choose in arithmetic at least.
Hmm.
Pick and choose in numbers. In fact, pick and choose a bit in algebra as well, but don't pick and choose in arithmetic or geometry. That's what I would say.
Okay. And what was your preparation strategy? Did you memorize? I see a lot of students memorizing the formulas and everything. Does that actually work? I mean, memorizing formulas can be good to a certain extent, but at some point of time, this is a aptitude test. So you need to use your reasoning skills, your aptitude skills in order to solve these questions, even when it comes to quantitative aptitude. What is your take on that? Did you memorize a lot of things?
So, by memorization, there are certain things that need to be memorized. There's no getting away from memorizing stuff like 1 by 3 ka value, 1 by 19 ka value, and stuff which are very basic in nature. All the squares, all the cubes, all the square roots, all the cube roots, these need to be memorized. And certain values that can be used in SICI, those can be memorized. But I was a person who can't remember shortcuts for his life. So it's better that you know what you're doing through the absolute basics, because a shortcut is too one-dimensional in nature, and you're bound to forget it unless you have done that shortcut in 500 problems. It never happens. Ki ye shortcut wala question will keep coming again and again. It doesn't happen.
Hmm.
So I feel shortcuts are useless, but the basic numbers like fractions, reciprocals, all that needs to be memorized.
Okay. How about logical reasoning data interpretation? We have seen also that in the past few years, LRDI has been more difficult than the quantitative aptitude section for CAT specifically. What has been your take on that? How did you prepare for LRDI? What was your strategy?
So LRDA was something that I was not particularly strong at. I always used to score well in mark and quant, but my LRDA used to pull me down. And honestly speaking, if I had to correct my mistake, I would take proper, more logical way of. I would improve the way I'd studied. Right now, I just based it on previous year questions and previous year marks. I might have wanted to do a lot more of theory or maybe someone teaching me. I did it on my own, LRDI more or less, which was not a good move. I would have gotten a quite a higher percentile had someone taught me, because I was on my own and I didn't know what is going to come. All my mocks were pretty bad. So I started focusing on just picking three sets correctly and 3 to 4 sets. And in the CAT paper, I hit 3.5 sets and all of them were correct, and it worked out. But it needs thorough preparation. If you can get a guide who knows what he is doing, it's amazing. Because I wish I had one.
Which part did you find it more difficult in LRDI? Was it the logical reasoning part or was it the data interpretation part?
I think all the questions are mixtures these days, and if you don't pick up the logic, you're not able to solve it. And I wasn't so good at picking up the logic in them. And That's how it was for me.
Okay. Verbal ability, what was your strategy for VA? There is no grammar these days in VA for a cat,
Right.
but does it actually help not studying grammar at all? Because um, I don't know. I mean, if I would have been in your case, I would have said no, you should, because grammar can also be used. If you have a solid knowledge in grammar, you can also use it in reading comprehension parajumpings. But I don't know. I did not write cat. You did. So you tell me, what was your take on that? Do you think students should actually eliminate grammar altogether from their revision?
So it totally depends on the person. Out here, it depends on how well you've done grammar earlier. For example, my first mock score way back in 17 of English was around 94, the first mock I really gave. So for me, I didn't need to do grammar per se. And but if someone in his first mock scores around a 65, there is an issue with his reading, there's an issue with comprehension, and that can be solved only by going back to the basics and learning how a sentence structure is formed. If the subject is here, where is its verb, and questions like that will help you in comprehending better. And yes, if you're not getting a 90 plus already, then you have to go back and probably do some grammar and probably do some vocabulary. But if you are hitting a first 95 itself, your vocab's okay, your grammar's okay, you just need to rigorously practice every day. Yeah.
Okay. And reading comprehension, how do you suggest that a student should prepare for reading comprehension? What is the best way possible?
So you should practice as many mocks as you can, as many sectional tests as you can, and you need to be very mechanical in the way you select your options. There should be a tick mark going on in your head. Ki, yeah, this is a factual question. Fact idhar hai, and you should totally be able to grasp what the question is asking. If you get what the question is asking, and you can eliminate options very correctly, I think that should suffice. But that comes with a lot of practice. It'll become a habit after a lot of practice.
How
Then
many
you'll be
you
able.
suggest? How many you suggest one should practice? How many reading
You're,
sessions a day?
you should be reading the Hindu, obviously, and every day one sectional at least. I had exhausted my entire time and IMS portal of sectionals and mocks,
Hmm.
so that should suffice, I guess. In addition to some few coaching material.
Okay. Okay. Um, so since you have also converted IIFT, you should be having a very good idea about how IIFT is. Now, one thing about IIFT is IIFT has the marking system of IIFT. They have more number of questions. It's more like a speed test because the marks for each question is much lesser than what you have in CAT. So, what was your strategy with respect to IIFT preparation? Did you prepare additionally for IIFT, or did your CAT preparation help you? How much it helped you? What were the similarities between CAT and IIFT?
So IFT and CAT, I didn't prepare separately for IFT, but after my CAT, I gave every mock that there was on my portal for IFT. And the big difference is that you need to clear the sectional cutoffs,
Hmm.
and those sectional cutoffs, it's more about smartly tackling the paper because every section you need to hit six. So first you try to wind that up, hit the cutoffs in every section, then pick your strongest section and capitalize thoroughly on that. And IFT came down to time management because you need to totally be aware कि इतना sectional and you have to be very sure of your answers. If you're very sure of your answers, then you know I've cleared a sectional here, and that way you save some time going on to the section you're strong at.
Hmm.
So it's about clearing sectional cutoffs. Many people, I know so many people who not cleared sectional cutoffs. So your first aim should be clearing sectional cutoffs, and you'll get a call if you just clear the sectional cutoffs. So clear the sectional cutoffs, and if possible, I'm not so good at GK. If you can capitalize on GK, it's probably the best for a student where there are free marks in 5 minutes. You can wrap up the entire GK section if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, these
So
are the ones which are, like a one-word question, one
exactly,
word answer. It's quicker than the rest of the questions.
yes.
You don't have to take a pen and paper to solve it. So yeah.
Yeah, and similarly in verbal ability,
Hmm.
if you know the meanings, it's free marks for you. So for me, verbal was probably the strongest. I know a lot of words, and all verbal questions also one like 2 second ones. If you know it, done in 2 seconds.
So you mean the synonyms, antonyms, questions,
Yes,
one word,
yes,
fill in the blanks, these kind of questions, right?
yes. If you know it, it's done in 2 seconds. So
Okay.
you can save thoroughly there.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your material that you have used because I have seen that a lot of students actually nowadays feel, okay, which material should we go for? What are the books that we should use? Uh, Most of them feel like the more number of books we use, the more number of pages of content we use, the better we can expect the marks. What is your opinion on that? What material did you use for each of the sections, whether it's the books or maybe your online, test series or anything? So, if you could tell me a little bit about the material that you have used, the resources. Let's start with quantitative aptitude.
For for my entire preparation, I've just thoroughly done my time material, and in fact, for quant, I did it like nearly thrice. And I've done previous CAT questions. There's a book called Face to Face, and from Arihant, which has all previous year CAT questions. These were the only two books which I've used a lot. And the difference is that a lot of people go around with a lot of books, and they do here and there. But if you do one book again and again, you kind of get used to what they're trying to tell you, and that's sufficient in its own right. Every coaching knows what they're doing, and if they're putting questions that's there for a reason, you should be able to solve all those questions which are there in your book in your sleep. If you can do that, I'm sure you're going to get good.
So, how many how many questions? So, you said you took the time material, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, as far as I know, that time has something. In the books that time gives has three sections: A, B, and C. If I'm not mistaken, A
Yeah.
section, B, and C section. A being the very basic ones, B a little intermediate, difficult, and C being the most difficult amongst all. So, how many questions do you suggest out of all these three sections one should prepare for a particular chapter? One should
All,
all.
all, all. There's no go getting away from.
Okay. Okay. And how about verbal ability and data interpretation, logical reasoning? What do you suggest? Which are the books, apart from the time material or the material that the respective students have referred to? A lot of students have referred to some other institute materials also. But apart from that, any books from the market that you actually advise?
A previous year question set for LRDA from from 2000 to 2018.
Hmm.
That should be done thoroughly. And another book, time. The problem with time and the other thing, other coaching institutes, are they have not updated it as per the recent years. So you see a lot of basic questions coming in the material which aren't going to help you so much. I would suggest doing mock questions or previous mock questions if you can get a hold of them, better than doing the material, because they don't deal with what is being asked these days. It's not
Okay.
updated.
Okay. And sorry, my follow-up question to that. How do you know that? I mean, how can you be so sure? Is it based on what you have seen in the mock test, or is it based on the kind of questions which came in CAT exam?
Okay, so there is a huge gap between what is asked in a mock and sometimes what's asked in the test. So yes, I would. Yes, I would agree that the books of the coaching institutes are more towards the CAT level. Yes, a bit lower, but they will not help you with the mocks. In the mocks, you're going to get slaughtered if you just depend on those books. So you have to do previous mock questions. Yeah. A
Okay.
mock can teach you for a mock.
Okay, so mock can teach you for a mock, and the mocks can teach you for the main examination. So obviously, mocks is the common link which you should be going with. And for your basics, I guess you need to refer to some of the book questions when you're actually just starting to, start your preparation, when you're just starting or revising the concepts. Let's talk about the mocks. How many mocks do you suggest one should take, and when did you start your mocks?
Whenever you can start your mocks. It's never too early or too late to start a mock. And
No, but ideally, as far as I know, time starts the mock, and most of the
in
institutes they started from May
May,
onwards. Yeah. So, did you start before that writing mocks because you had the access to previous mocks, or you started after May or from May itself?
so I started in May, and I wasn't one of those people who took 100 mocks or 50 mocks. I did around 25, but I did them very thoroughly. and I made sure that I had a mock diary, and whatever questions were asked in the mock, I made sure that I don't miss out on any concept or any uh, extension of those questions which have been asked.
Okay.
So around 20 marks should be sufficient if you do it properly. But that's a personal opinion. It might vary for others. Like if they want 30, well, whatever works for them.
And all the 20 marks, has your scores been consistent, or it has been like, graph going up and down, or maybe it has been going up or going down? What was your graph like when you were giving the marks?
So if anyone who's saying that he's been hitting 99 consistently, I hats off to that person. And for me, it was up and down affair, and sometimes I would hit as low as 85, 80s. Sometimes go as high as 99.5.
Hmm.
But it will happen. It is kind of something that you will encounter. It is going to happen with everyone, and you just need to get over it. Get over whatever score you have. It's too good. Get over it and move on to the next.
Okay,
That's how it
and
is.
so let's say you get an 80 in this in mock X, and then you have mock Y in maybe a week's time. What would be your strategy in order to score more in mocks in mock Y in comparison to mock X?
So, firstly, expecting that you're suddenly gonna improve by next weekend is something that's not gonna happen. If you expect, if I do a certain bit of steps and suddenly my 5 percentile or marunga, that's not gonna happen.
Hmm.
But what you can do is for the next mock, make sure that you don't get anything wrong that you encountered in the previous mock, or whatever errors you've had, you plugged it in. If there's a conceptual deficiency in some question, if there is speed or accuracy or practice deficiency in some question, try to get rid of that. But expecting results in the next week does not make sense. It'll probably happen over a month at max, but it won't. It's not gonna suddenly manifest in the next month.
So basically, what you're saying is you should maintain a consistency, or maybe you should aim for higher, but you cannot
Yeah,
aim for a way high marks because it's not possible. It's a little,
yeah.
impractical. But so
So
I.
there's a mock diary that I maintain, and because stuff that tends to slip out of your mind. So in the mock diary, keep all the interesting questions there, and always revise them probably before giving your next mock. So that makes a lot of
Basically, analysis of all the mocks is very important. That's what you say.
yeah.
Okay. Um, how about the sectional test? How important are the sectional tests? You have the basic sectional test, intermediate sectional test, and the full length sectional test. How many sectional tests do you advise someone to write per week, apart from the mocks?
Since I had taken a drop, I had quite a bit of time on my hands. So whenever I got tired of studying theory or solving questions just endlessly, then I would just give a mock, give a sectional, because at least it's interesting. Matlab, you get a score and your mood lifts up or whatever. Something happens. So you give as much as you can. There's no limit to it. It's kind of just like going for a jog. It helps you go for a jog, do it, come back, and get back to work.
Okay.
But you need to do it. There's no way out of doing it.
Rishabh, how about general awareness? What material would you suggest someone for the GK preparation? Because it's not only CAT, but general awareness comes in a lot of other management exams, like you have IIFT, then you also have ZAT, in which GK comes. And most importantly, then there are exams like this net as well, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, the exam that they have. But most importantly, GK is a very important part of your group discussion first interview preparation. So which are the materials that you use for preparing for GK and current affairs?
I'm so off the record for this. I am the worst person you can ask for GK. I had 1.16 in my IFT and the cutoff was 1.15.
So
So I
you're
am
very
not
dispersed.
not the right person to ask.
Okay. Okay.
But for GDPI, I can tell what I had done.
Okay. So then come to GDPI. What was when did you start preparing for your GDPI?
I think the first time I started preparing was with you. So my entire HR questions are totally on the foundation what you're given, on all the IIT Delhi forms that we created, the NEETI forms, all these forms. If you do it properly, you kind of know what you're going to answer. And then there's a list of HR questions you can get. So you need to have an answer for most of them. And like you're my mentor, so I kind of discussed whatever I was going to say. And I kind of knew my HR questions very thoroughly by the first interview. I was pretty okay with my HR questions.
No, but
And
just sorry to interrupt you, but what I would like to know is when did you start the preparation? Because there are people who start, from the month of March. Some start from the month of April. When did you start your GDPI?
that's asking for disaster. You should start it and the moment cat is over.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
at least start reading newspapers or GK or something that is, at least start getting an idea, because the later you leave it, you're gonna be like, there's so much to do. Like, they can ask anything under the sun, and you need to be very well aware. And awareness doesn't come in 15 days. Probably 2 months or 3 months will get you a respectable level of awareness. You don't come across as someone who's blissfully unaware of what's going on or not. So at least give it 2 months, 2.5 months to.
And you were talking about general awareness for GDPI. So, what resources did you use for GDPI and current affairs for GDPI?
So I think my preparation is a bit hatke here, and it's because I subscribe to an UPSC channel to prepare for my.
What
Uh,
was the name of the channel?
so there's Byju's IAS,
Uh,
Byju's IAS, and they deal with India on such a holistic level that you kind of know everything going into the GDPI, and you kind of know what they are probably going to ask about India. So if you do the IAS preparation or UPSC preparation properly, and you know what they have, at least on not the absolute depth what they do, but at least speakable level, then I think it's more than enough. If
but do you
you,
have to pay for the channel or is it a free channel?
it's a free channel.
So you just have to subscribe to the channel and you can get
Yes,
subscription-based material, uh,
right,
the general awareness subscription-based material.
right.
Okay, perfect. So that is the channel that you use for the GK preparation. Tell me about your experience during your IF and your IIM Cold Core interview. How different was it? Right now you said that whatever you can be asked a lot of things, anything and everything you don't know, you have to be prepared enough so that you can give at least 90% of what you know to them. So, what was your experience? What were the strange kind of questions that were asked to you during? Maybe you can share one or two questions that you were asked, which you found very strange, which was like all of a sudden out of the blue that came out.
I can remember two,
Yeah.
and one is from my Shillong interview. So in my Shillong interview, at one point, we were discussing fluid mechanics. I was discussing fluid mechanics with the teacher, and he asked me, "Tell me any Newton's law related to fluid mechanics." And I was like, "Sir, there's something called Newton's law of cooling." At that moment, the teacher tells me, "You're lying to us. There's no such law. You're a liar." And I'm like, "Was no, there is a law." And he didn't believe me that there was a law there. And at one point, I did lose a tiny bit of my cool, and I said to him that, "Sir, if you select me for Shillong, I will come there with my book and I will show it to you." To which he replied, "That is, if I select you to Shillong." And after that, I was fine for the interview.
I think it was like a pressure question, right? Like
Yeah,
you just wanted to see how you handle pressure, how you handle situations when you are being asked a question, which is, let's say, in a way, it's a kind of a stupid question because they know that okay, they just want to test what is your response to it. Okay,
right.
how about in IIFT? Were you asked anything completely out of the blue, something you were not expecting at all?
So IFT was probably the most straightforward interview. Took a few HR questions, a few questions about my job, a few questions about current affairs, and finished. So it was very straightforward, nothing difficult, and very basic questions of current affairs also. What is GST? That's all that was asked to me.
Okay.
And and that too because on my form it's written that my father works in GST. So that's all
Okay.
there was to it. And otherwise, they asked me about my work. They asked me, I did project management. They asked me about project management. a few HR questions. What do you like, dislike? That's all.
Okay. So basically, you have your work experience related questions, you have academic related questions, and pressure questions, like questions related to like a pressure test. So
Yes.
which you feel is not possible to be prepared in a month's time or in 15 days time, you need time. So how many, if you took a lot of time, you prepare yourself within a period of about 3 months, how many mocks did you give while you were preparing for your DD? How many mocks did you, mock PIs did you
So I just gave around two. That's all I gave. I
give?
gave around two because it's just me. But I believe that I'm better off going in as I am, and I kind of know how to be professional and come across a genuine person. So I didn't want too much of alteration to how I am as a person, and giving too many marks, in my opinion, feels that they're gonna tweak too much with you. And if I'm tweaked with too much, I'm not gonna deliver. Is how I feel. If I'm taught that I have to say this, and most of my interviews I've cleared it, so I know that it works for me if I'm myself. So I don't want to
So it
give too
is
many.
basically very similar to what your preparation with respect to leaving your job and taking a gap of some months. So it works for you, but what you're saying is because you're sure that it will work for you, you know yourself that when it works for you. Uh, but yeah, for different people, I think it works in a different way because
Yes, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone either. To not take mocks.
okay, okay. How about let's talk a little bit about your finances. So as we know, so you will be joining IIMK, right? Not
Yeah.
IIFT. Yeah. So how about the finances? How are you financing your education?
So probably I'll take a loan from the SBI, whatever gives the best interest. Quite good.
Okay. For people who are not aware of this, for guys who wants to prepare your for your MBA entrances, who wants to go for an MBA studies, but they are not able to go because they feel it's too expensive. Do not worry, you should get the right percentile because if you get that, SBI has something called as an SBI scholar loan,
Right, right.
which there are some institutes which are enlisted under the SBI scholar loan. You can check it on their website. Obviously, IIM's IIFT are a part of it. As far as I remember, I think the
Right,
IIM TAP is also a part of it. Wherein you get 100% collateral free loan, which
right,
means
right,
that
right.
yeah, so you don't have to pay anything while you are studying. You don't have to pay interest. After you finish your studies, you start paying your interest.
In fact, they give us 6 months after we complete our studies as well. They give you 6 months extra.
Yeah, so 6 months extra. Yeah, that's amazing. So which means
Yeah,
that you need to know which college you go. And obviously, when you're going to the top 25 colleges, you definitely graduate with a higher percentile, with a higher package. And, getting your loan sorted would be much easier for you. So just because of finances, please don't back out of
definitely.
giving an MBA. These things can be sorted out later, but most important is you should get the required work. So you are also taking a loan from
Definitely.
SBI. Okay.
In fact, I'd like to tell you a small story of
Yeah, sure.
the SBI loan. So every person who goes to an SBI probably complains of how crowded it is or how they don't do work. Just go there, say that my IIM ka SBI scholar loan ke liye. For the first time, you're going to get chai and you're going to get some biscuits.
So you are
And
treated like a VIP side, right?
yeah, yeah. So just do it for that little feeling because SBI, man, nobody gets anything, let alone their own bank issues are not sorted, and you're getting chai and you're getting biscuits there.
So that's an amazing feeling.
Yeah,
So you have to. So basically, if you want to get any motivation and inspiration, think about this: that you are actually you will be making a people of the people of SBI work for you.
yes,
And you to
yes.
that which is amazing. So yeah, that's a good one. Okay, thank you so much, Rishabh, for joining us. Any further before we sign off? Any last minute tips you want to give to the CAT 2019 aspirants?
You have to keep at it till the very end. If you stop giving your marks or you start getting demotivated because एक mock खराब आया or something went wrong, then you're not going to make it. You have to keep at it till the very end. No, you can't afford spikes कि आप मैंने एक हफ्ते को पढ़ाई नहीं की or something like that. So that will make a lot of difference.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Rishabh, for joining us.